Hello and welcome to Euphoria. Today I'm going to rebuild the town square at the centre of my Lego city. This square is called Harmonia Plaza. There are currently buildings on 3 sides of this square, including my extended brick bank on one side and other buildings on the other 2 sides. The new square will be a bit bigger than the old one, and there'll be a lovely new fountain in the centre of the square. This should be quite a nice update to my Lego city, and I'm continuing to build modular buildings, MOCs and other things, so if you want to see how things are developing, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to get notifications of updates. So in this video I'll have a quick look at the old square in my Lego city, and then I'm going to lay out the new square, place the fountain in the middle, and I'll add some street lights and maybe some other detailing into the square. So I'm going to start by looking at the old town square and how I'm going to improve it in the new one. This is the old town square in my Lego city. As you can see, it's not quite complete, as I was never completely happy with how it was working out, and I didn't have all the parts I needed to finish it off at the time of construction. However, it did let me progress my ideas for my Lego city. It's actually not even properly square, because it's 64 studs wide but only 48 studs deep. The paving of the square is made up from these 2x2 tiles, mostly in dark bluish grey with a pattern in light bluish grey. I've used a mixture of plain tiles and those ones with a stud in the middle so that I can place minifigures or other things in the square. I also added a decorative pattern to the square in this dark orange colour, and that's partly because I wanted to have some decorative element to the square, but really it's because at the time I was making this I didn't have enough of the 2x2 tiles, but I had managed to get some of these 1x2 tiles in dark orange from the pick-a-brick wall in a Lego store. I'd also managed to get some 1x2 tiles in this sand green colour from the pick-a-brick wall, so I used these for some of the decorative pattern in the paving. But I was never completely happy with these, and they were always going to be temporary. That's why we had the workmen in to fix up the paving in the square. In the centre of the old square, I was trying out some ideas using an octagonal 10x10 plate and some wedge-shaped plates to make a kind of star-shaped pattern in the centre of the square. And that was going to have the small fountain in it from the Lego Creator set 40221. But now I've decided to put a bigger fountain in the centre of the square, and I don't think I need this kind of star-shaped arrangement. Now, as you can see, the base plates I used for this version were one large 48x48 stud grey base plate, then a 16x32 green base plate, and a 16x16 tan base plate. That's just what I had at the time, but these base plates will be replaced when I make the new square. There's room around the old town square for quite a few buildings. On the left-hand side, where it's meant to be the old town, there are some older style buildings, including the Old Astronomical Clock Tower modular building, which is one of my MOCs. There's also the Princess Catherine monument on that side of the square, which is called Katie's Corner. Facing onto the square on this side, there's the extended Brick Bank and the Pet Shop modular buildings. And on the right hand side I've got the Parisian Restaurant modular building and my Townhouse and Apartment modular building MOC, giving a contrast between the older and newer buildings. Now I'm going to look at the plan for the new square, or plaza as I'm going to call it. I'm going to make the old square a bit bigger into its full size of 64 by 64 studs. To do that, I'm going to use 4 32 by 32 stud base plates in the dark bluish grey colour that I like to use for my buildings and my paving areas. I've had a go at planning out the square on the computer, so I've got a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like, where the fountain's going to go, how I'm going to do the patterns in the paving, and where the lampposts will go. You'll see in this design that I've placed some lampposts towards the centre of the square and other ones around the outside so that I get a regular spacing between them. In the centre of the square I'm going to put my new fountain, which I designed specifically to go here. And I'm going to make a pattern in the paving using different coloured 2x2 tiles. There'll be a pattern around the fountain in light bluish grey tiles, a circular pattern around that in dark tan, and around the outside there'll be a border pattern with these knot-like corner patterns. So now I'm going to see if I can build the square according to this design. As I said, I'm going to make the square on 4 32 by 32 dark grey base plates. The fountain will go in the centre of the square, about here. I recently built the new fountain for the square on a 32 by 32 base plate. There's a video on my channel showing how I developed the design for this fountain. But I made this on one 32 by 32 stud base plate. So what I'm going to do is transfer it from this base plate into the centre of these 4 base plates. So here is the fountain built into the centre of the 4 base plates. Now I'm going to put down the plates for the positions where the 4 lampposts will go in the centre of the square to make sure I get them in the right place. Around them I'll build the pattern of 2x2 tiles in light bluish grey. I think of these as 2 foot by 2 foot paving slabs. I'm using a mixture of flat tiles and tiles with a stud in the centre so that I can place minifigures and possibly other things in the square. Then I can fill in the paving with 2x2 dark bluish grey tiles. Again, it's a mixture of flat tiles and those with a stud. I just put them in a random pattern which adds a bit of texture to the paving and lets me position things in a naturalistic way. It wouldn't look right if all the people, for example, were standing or walking in straight rows. So that's the pattern in the centre of the square done, and now I can do the pattern around the outside of the square, also in light bluish grey tiles. Now this looks like quite a large area, and you might think it's going to be rather a waste of space. I could easily fit 4 regular sized modular buildings on these 4 base plates, but if I did have buildings there, they would block whatever was behind, and I wanted to have an open space that could be a focal point at the centre of my city. And having a layout round a square like this means that I don't just have a row of buildings all facing the same way. Next, I'm going to make a circular pattern out of dark tan 2x2 tiles. It's kind of a pixelated circle because I'm trying to do it with just 2x2 tiles and not use any kind of curved pieces. And anyway, Lego doesn't make curved pieces that fit together very well. So this will be a kind of approximation of a circle, but it will still be circular in shape. Then it's easy to fill in the remaining space with the dark bluish grey tiles. Having a space like this at the centre means that I can bring some life into the city and change things around a bit. And I'm not going to have any roads in my city centre. And when you think about the space that's normally taken up by roads, whether they're built from old road plates or the new road plates or custom built, and then convert that to a nice pedestrian area with a fountain, lots of space for people, I think that's quite a good trade. Unfortunately, I don't have quite enough tiles at the moment to completely finish the square, so over in this corner it's going to have to remain a work in progress, and the workmen are going to have to be here just for a little bit longer until I get a few more tiles. So now I'm going to add the lampposts into the square. I've already made a load of the different types of lampposts that I'm going to need. I recently did a separate video on the design and build of the lampposts that I'm going to use, and you can see that on my channel. In the centre of the square I'm placing lampposts with 4 arms and 4 lanterns. There'll be 4 of those around the fountain, so that should give good illumination in the centre of the square. And round the outside of the square I'm going to place lampposts with 2 arms and 2 lanterns. So now I'm going to place the square in my Lego city and fit the buildings around the square. So now that the main plaza is in place, I just need to put the lampposts around the edge of the plaza next to the modular buildings. For now, I'm going to keep most of the same buildings around the square. On this side of the square, I'll keep the Old Astronomical Clock Tower, which faces out onto the square with its double clock faces and the various astronomical indicators for phases of the moon and so on. The Princess Catherine monument leading to the Old Town will also be on this side. There's an alley down the side of the Old Astronomical Clock Tower, and on the other side of the alley is the Katie Corner house. On the top side of the plaza, I'm keeping the Brick Bank with the laundrette next door, which I've converted from a corner modular building to a 48 studs wide straight modular, and next to that is the pet shop. On this side of the square, I've got room for more modular buildings, and I'm thinking of putting the police station and assembly square on this side, but for now I'm putting the Parisian Restaurant and my Townhouse and Apartment Café MOC. So that's the new square for the centre of my Lego city, which I'm calling Harmonia Plaza. I'm rather pleased with the way it worked out, and I think it looks like a pretty good centrepiece for my Lego city. It's a bit bigger than the square I had previously, but I think it looks a whole lot better, with a bit more space, a new design, the lovely new fountain, and the patterns in the paving. I hope you like it too. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. There are one or two things to finish off, so come back soon.